very shy person.
The killer who vlogged his murders.
And I don't have to worry about Lynette or Kaylene.
My husband is so sweet. He's so nice. He's very supportive, and he really spoils me. These were the words of Lynette Keller, wife to Peter Keller. In her words, she was the luckiest woman alive to be married to such a man and have a family with him. He was absolutely incredible. The scariest part of this story was that she was right. Peter was incredibly sweet and thoughtful, and he showed up for his family. From the day he first met his wife Lynette, Peter loved her at first sight and told her straight up that he wanted to marry her within the first month of their relationship. Even though Lynette made it clear she wasn't looking to get married, Peter was not one to easily back down. He showered her with love, care, and affection until she finally realized what a great man he was. So one day, when he popped the question, she felt like the luckiest girl in the world. A few months later, Peter and Lynette were married. Together, they had a beautiful daughter, Kaylene, and their family was perfect. Peter was an ever-present father and husband, despite the fact that he worked a lot and worked really hard at that. He was there for Kaylene when she graduated high school. He was there for his wife when she couldn't work due to medical issues and had to be a stay-at-home mom. He funded her passions and hobbies. She would make videos for YouTube telling everyone what an amazing man she married, and through it all, Peter never once complained or acted out of place. Little did everyone know there was a battle in Peter's head. An avalanche of thoughts that they couldn't possibly comprehend, and these thoughts would lead him to do one of the most bizarre, scariest, and most shocking thing ever. That would lead you to only one logical question: why? The Troubled Man. From the outside, Peter could pass for a normal family man. But as we've already established, he was hiding a very deep, dark secret that would later consume him. A secret that was born from his past and his upbringing. So let's dive into that a little bit. What you are about to learn are things from Peter's past that may have caused a level of trauma to be able to make him do what he did. But most shockingly of all, they were told by Peter himself before he did the unthinkable. Peter Keller was not your average boy growing up. He learned quickly that he was different. Apart from the fact he had terrible parents who were absent, he also hated his looks, and this affected his interaction with other people. He didn't believe he looked good enough to be able to find love. He also did not get the best girls or the best of things. All his life, he always felt like he had nothing. So when she met Lynette, he persuaded her to marry him because he knew that if she didn't, he would most likely never have luck with anyone else. Eventually, the two got married, and one would think that now that he had a family, he would be secure, he would be happy. Well, we couldn't be farther from the truth. As his life went on, his wife fell ill. Going to work or leaving the house was a big hassle, and she had to be staying home, as well as visiting the hospital often. This singular event took a toll on his finances and kept sucking all that he had. Little by little, he began to get frustrated by this. He was not happy. He was not secure. But oddly enough, he did not complain. Instead, he took a much darker route. Again, a darker route born from his childhood twisted wish. As a young boy, because Peter hated everyone around him, he mostly isolated himself as much as he could. But living with family and having school, he could never really be alone, but all he wanted was to be by himself, away from everyone, away from society, away from all the pain. Decades after, he was 41, and suddenly he could afford to breathe life into his twisted childhood dream. So Peter Keller embarked on a project that he devoted almost all of his time to, without the knowledge of his family, friends, neighbors, or colleagues. He decided to build himself an underground bunker far from the rest of civilization, just so he could be with himself. He could afford to do it now. Nothing was stopping him. So while he would do his duties as a loving father and husband, keeping up appearances and showing up to work like a normal person, Peter was also secretly going deep into the woods where he wanted to build himself an underground bunker and be alone. About a mile hike away from his home, deep into the woods, Peter found a spot and devoted the next few months to building a secret bunker where no one would suspect. He would buy all the necessary materials, the beams, the wood that was needed, everything. He intended to do it all by himself, and sometimes he would carry his dog along to this secret place. After he was done with his building for the day, he would return home like nothing happened. To him, the bunker would be called Camp Keller, and it was only phase 1 of his dark, twisted, and evil plan. Now, be warned, this is where the story gets even more intense and strange. The videotapes. Perhaps his wife got it from him, or maybe it was the other way around, but Peter loved to take videos of moments around him. From random tapes of his family, he would record memorable moments and rewatch them later. A very beautiful habit, but somehow Peter was able to use this hobby for his twisted plan. From the day he began to build his bunker in the woods, he began recording the entire process, the location, what he was doing, what he was yet to do, and all. It was like a very disturbing YouTube video, and sometimes he would speak to the camera and say things like, "I don't know how I got so effed up. Everything just seems to be going wrong in my life, but it's not all my fault. I blame my shitty childhood and upbringing." For some reason, Peter was keeping a video diary of his project and all the moments that would lead him to executing his plan. But throughout his recording process, day by day, Peter never really mentioned what his plan was.
Today is
but he would refer to it in the most curious way.
What's going to happen? I may get caught right away.
At certain points, he would say he couldn't believe what he was about to do. Later on, he would say the day was getting closer.
It's about 2 weeks before.
And this would be the last video before it all happened. But what? What was he trying to do? What was his plan? Executing the plan. During the early hours of April 22nd, 2012, neighbors noticed a fire from the Keller residence. And so they did what any normal person would do, call the fire department. Soon after, the fire department came along, and because the house was already on fire, they had to get through the roof. Little did they know they were doing something extremely dangerous, and they were going to stumble on something terrible. After a while, they were able to put out the fire. And now investigators began to search around the house when they noticed 2 bodies untouched by the fire, but still unconscious. It was Lynette and Kaylene Keller, Peter's wife and daughter. They had bullet holes in their forehead, and they had evidently been shot. Then investigators looked around some more, and they realized they couldn't find Peter's body. He was nowhere to be found, gone without a trace. But that was not all they found. They also found some skillets that had been put in the microwave to cause an explosion when triggered by the fire. This meant that the investigators and officers who came in through the roof might have lost their lives if the explosion had been triggered. Obviously, this fire was not accidental. Someone had shot the wife and her child, then set the house on fire, hoping to bury all the evidence. It was also discovered that Peter had withdrawn $6,200 from the family bank account soon after the fire. This could only mean 2 things. Either Peter was in trouble, or he was running away. The investigators were confused, but by a stroke of luck, something incredible happened. They found a hard drive, and oddly enough, it wasn't yet destroyed by the fire. So they played the files inside, and there, they found all the recordings of Peter Keller building his bunker and hinting at the crime he had now committed. It suddenly became clear to the authorities this was not an accidental incident. It was both murder and arson. Peter did it, and now he was hiding away. Apparently, this was Peter's plan all along. He was going to complete his bunker, then take the life of his wife and daughter, then set fire to the house so he would burn all the evidence that would point to him. Then he would retire to his bunker deep in the forest and live out the rest of his days alone and by himself, just as he wanted to do when he was a kid. He never really loved his family as he appeared to do. He was depressed. He wanted them gone. To him, they were leeches, huge burdens that he didn't need, and he just kept putting up appearances as the perfect man until the bunker was completed. Investigators had one job, and one job only: find Peter Keller and make him pay for his crimes. The Disturbing Manhunt. For the next 6 days, investigators delved into the Keller case in a bid to find out where Peter was. And thanks to the recordings, they were able to see photos and videos of the bunker where they knew he was hiding. However, the woods are wide and huge. He could be in any part. They were at a stalemate and couldn't pinpoint his exact position. But one day, the lead investigator was taking a look at one of the photos Peter took of the location. From a distance, he could see a power line.
So you're looking off the mountain toward, which would be North Bend, the city.
That little piece of information was what helped them narrow down their search. Then more reports came in that every other day, Peter would always drive to a specific location, park his car, and walk into the woods. Another piece of information that could help with the angle of the woods where he could be hiding. Their priority was to find that bunker. So they got on a helicopter and began searching the woods, their eyes peeled for any sign of a bunker or of human life of any sort. Finally, after a few hours, the authorities could see smoke coming from a portion of the woods, and when they investigated, they found it was smoke from his stove. Peter was there. That was the underground bunker. But they had to move with caution. They had learned from experience and watching his videos that Peter Keller was an incredibly dangerous man, and there was a chance he had weapons in there with him. So they chose a more subtle approach. First, they tried to smoke him out, but after several tries, Peter did not run out. Then, they tried throwing a grenade near the bunker so they could scare him out, but still nothing. It was incredibly frustrating, but they also realized that from his videos, they found that his bunker had multiple levels, so they decided to approach themselves. It was the only way. What they found in there shocked them to their marrows. Peter had quite a stash of food, drinks, and water in there with him. No doubt, he was prepared to stay there forever and maybe go out to buy more supplies if he ever ran out. That's why he withdrew the $6,200 which he stashed in the bunker with him. But as for Peter Keller himself, they found his lifeless body on the ground. Apparently, as soon as he realized he might be caught and arrested, he took his own life. Thus was the end of Peter Keller, an emotionally disturbed man who obviously suffered from anxiety and chronic depression. Sadly, no one saw it coming. Not even his own wife and daughter.
All right, so how do you feel, Kaylene?